16 minutes is all it took to break the deadlock in game number 1 as Mindfreak come away with the very first victory of the night. But Aztech coming into this one, they showed a lot of promise. Their drafting was on point. Their game style was on point. But just a few classic Mindfreak, we're better than you. Pizzazz, I suppose, for lack of a better term, right?
We're better than you.
Yeah, straight up, we are better than you. We've been to LANs. We've been to overseas tournaments. They managed to isolate crucial members. They managed to take out Ultivian, like you mentioned, and move them into situations to break up that strong 4-man rotation. Coming into a map like Battlefield of Eternity, where we're going to next, it's not as important for the laning phase. It's more so about that objective control. So drafting will be adapted a little bit differently, maybe a little bit more forgiving for Aztec style.
Absolutely, Skimmy. You pretty much just brought up the points that I wanted to talk about, and that's Mindfreak. We know that when they're down now, they have had that experience of coming back. They know exactly what they need to do to get back that experience and really go forward and push through it. In terms of that map, Dragonshy, where you're constantly being forced to rotate and make these snap decisions, Mindfreak, we saw, that was really the undoing for Aztec. And there was one crucial fight, I think, in the early game where we saw Ultivian, he was trying to stop Vanilla cap the Dragon Knight, whereas he could have just focused on getting some kills in that bottom lane, and really the Dragon Knight wouldn't have really had much bite to it. So it's just those snap decisions where you're really forced to say, what am I doing? Am I staying to defend? Am I attacking? And Mindfreak, they just had the experience. Aztec, this is going to be probably the map where we can start to see them shine a little bit better. It is more focused on that team fight. In fact, if they played that composition that they just had on a map like this, it might have had different results.
I agree. I definitely feel like it's a much more forgiving map, as it is a 2-lane map to start off with, right? You have those 2 focal points of contest, which is the Immortals themselves. So you are looking to try and force a fight around that. You're looking to try and pick up heroes. I mean, obviously, the one that springs to mind for most people would be Hanzo. If you ban or you draft Hanzo, chances are you're going to win. Unless you're going to try and bring it back to an old school style of play. We're talking Greyman, we're talking Vala, to shred down an Immortal. We've seen from a global standpoint, teams, if Hanzo is taken away, look to try and draft complete team fight and just say, look, if we can't race down the Immortal, we're just going to kill you. So we actually can't even do that Immortal.
Absolutely. We've seen that happen quite a lot, even in terms of ANZ, not just on the global scene, where if you do lose out on that race, you just pick a very strong team fight. So as you said, you can at least contest or defend your Immortal quite well. That Hanzo will be a key talking point. I believe he will be banned by whichever team, because it's just an auto win, like you said, on Battlefield 10. He's just too strong at shredding down that Immortal.
Too strong indeed. As we look like we're ready to rock and roll, I feel like we're just waiting for us. Who are we waiting for? We're just waiting for members to ready themselves up.
Waiting for you, Skinny.
We're getting ready. I'm getting ready. You, the viewers, are getting ready because you can't even see our faces. How cool is that? I'm Mindfreak and you're Aztec.
You're in our minds.
It feels like
I'm in ruins. It's good. All righty, let's see where this draft takes us. Hanzo's going to be that talking point. We do have the first pick going over to Mindfreak, so they have opted to go for that first pick. So this map was also chosen by Aztec, and in saying that, I doubt we'll see them banning it. If the Hanzo ban's going to come out, it needs to be from Aztec side.
Yeah, typically speaking, you'd imagine it would come from a second pick priority. The question is, though, if you are first banning it, it says to me that, one, you just think that you're better at team fighting and that you aren't really too concerned about that Immortal race or, as some would coin, the cheese potential. But, I feel like we're going to see a lot of the same old. We're looking at Genji bans, Maiev bans, Garrosh bans. We're looking at denying as many reliable engagement tools, but then also turnaround controlling tools. So Mindfreak are going to start off with a Genji ban. The question is now, are they going to ban 2 out of 2 for the Shimada brothers?
Took the words right out of my mouth. I'm like, which Shimada brother will make it through? Probably none, by the way this draft is going. And as you said, not expecting the drafts to chop and change too much. We will still be seeing the likes of probably your Blaze, the Garrosh. Might not be seeing the Stitches. He's not as popular in Battlefield Tourney. This was the Penta special, if you will, now the Fat 94 special. But we might just see, instead of having to split them up, there's only 2 lanes of this, so you only get limited, I guess, pressure from a global. Yes, Tahaka's still good on this, but it's only because he's got that global, whereas Stitches, you're not really going to be looking for those picks. You want that team fight instead of the isolation.
100% agree. But definitely Ryu is a fantastic player when it comes to Tahaka. And the question really was, when it came to that first pick, where were they going to go? Were they going to go for the Hanzo, given it is available, or would they stick to the Malfurion and opt for a team fight style of play? The option to pick up the Hanzo with that shred with those serrated arrows was far too good to pass on up. The response is, though, the Malfurion followed up by the Blaze as well. So once again, a very safe, doesn't reveal too much, but it does give you some reliable engage tools as well as disengage tools with the roots, with the bunker, and with some fantastic sustain.
I do like that as well. In terms of with the Hanzo just being picked up, it just sets up Mindfreak very well for the rest of his draft, similar to opening with that Genji, not giving away too much of your draft, but just playing to the objective so far. I hope this doesn't come back to punish Aztech too much because, as I said, I was expecting that Hanzo to be banned, but they felt like the Maiev would have been too great a threat to also pass up. So they wanted to get rid of that dive, especially on a very close quarters map like Battlefield Tona. Lots of choke points where really Maiev, she can absolutely decimate.
Yeah, I feel like if you're the side of Aztech right now, you want to be diving and drafting dive. You know, I'm talking Anubrax, I'm talking... even ETC to a degree. We have seen some offlane ETC. This is a map where, once again, that soaking potential isn't as important as other lanes. That can definitely come into play. The Li Ming is going to be picked up as well as the Muradin, so some reliable dive to set things up here to, lock in place those arrows and those magic missiles. And John is very formidable when it comes to the Li Ming. You had to imagine it's going to be vanilla flexing onto Hanzo, given the track record that Mindfreak have. So, once again, two very distinct styles so far. Mindfreak definitely getting what they want when it comes to winning that objective.
The heroes that they've all picked will have really nice synergy as well. You do have the Hanzo and the Li Ming. Muradin can jump in. Ming can also then follow up if they do need that execute. They also have really nice poke coming out, so they are thinking quite well about their draft. We are entering the second ban phase now, and let's see now, what do we see Aztec really valuing to take away from Mindfreak? They really want to hit them in terms of the support department, or also in the solo lane department, I feel.
Thinking now, what would spring to mind as a really, really strong pick? When it comes to supports, we are still playing on the old patch. Those Rhaegar buffs are not available here just yet. He's still, I'd almost say in the dumpster, but definitely not top tier. So what springs to mind, Karazim is definitely very strong when you have a composition like such. Other ideas could have been the likes of a Stukov, if you want to try and lock somebody in place and just blow them up without any chance to respond with that silence on the floor. But Tracer, that is going to be the response here. A very smart ban, given the interactions that Malfurion has with her. And based on what they've drafted so far, take away some dive, take away somebody that can always try and find a pick and go, cheers, love.
Cheers, love. The pick is here. And I do like taking away the Tracer, because once that Muradin Dwarven toss is in, that's Tracer's cue to go and harass that backline. You're talking about looking at that Hanzo, looking at that Li Ming. Tracer can be an absolute nightmare. So as whoever their support ends up being, the Stukov, as I said, is still on the table. But they opted to ban away that Karazim. So a lot of respect on the side of Aztec in terms of they picked that Karazim last game and now they're banning him away. So they really do value him as a high tier support. And really, we don't see that. As I said, he's quite niche in the role that he fills. Very niche in the role that he fills, but definitely came to full effect at the mid-season brawl when some of these plays showcase how strong they are mechanically, and that supports aren't always dictated by who can output the most raw healing numbers, but who can actually make the plays, so to speak. Lunari is going to get locked in here. That has to be a classic for old Tivin. He's played it already in week number 1 up against Crimson and found some great success with it. And it will lend an idea to, when it comes to the Immortal Race, having some counter shred of their own. Yeah, and it also then plays into why they banned away that Karazim 7-side strike, finding a lot of value onto the Blazing Gauche with those huge health pools. So, I mean, they did have this plan in mind. That was kind of what I was going to indicate as well. By banning away that Karazim, they're thinking of running a very tanky lineup, and it really plays to that. In terms of Mindfreak, I'm just really curious to see who they want to have as a support. So far, we've only seen Madhax pick the Malfurion up twice. Well, 3 times if you count the game before. So wondering who is his next support, the next go-to of choice on a map like this. But I would like to see that Stukov. I think it would just really help in terms of what they've got for their team. And if there is going to be any sort of collapse coming from the Lunara Garrosh, you have that flailing swipe available. Oh, but Decade, here's another good one, Skimmy.
Do like the Decade Kane, definitely came to life as well. Many people questioning, is he strong? Is he worth picking? He doesn't have a cleanse. Must be dumpster tier, but definitely showcasing that the zoning control that he has is second to none. The old man has a stick and he ain't afraid to use it out of that retirement home. Those scrolls, the ceilings.
You're a young whippersnapper. He's like, do I belong in a dumpster? Skimmy, stay a while and listen. We're going to have a chat about this. Oh, come on. We're far too early into the night here to get those puns and those witty jokes out, Vandy. Oh, dearie me. But I tell you what, this composition screams to life, CC, and just more CC. And if you're locked in place, you are going to die from this
skill shots that both Hanzo and Li Ming can find. Final pick, though, for Aztech. They have gone for a Tychus, a pick that we don't see too commonly, definitely falling down the pecking order in terms of other assassins that are chosen over him. But once again, playing to the eye that you mentioned before about Karazim, a very beefy frontline DPS.
Yep, and he's got that shred as well. So if Muradin wants to try and isolate someone, we can actually turn to him. It's not going to be the worst option to try and shred him down and deal with him in that regard. We've got that peel potential coming out from Taika. So always interesting when you do have him on board. Tanks need to respect how far, how deep they want to go in, because you're not really going to have that high health pool to fall back on. In fact, it's going to be the death of you. But what I'm already looking at and noticing this time around, Skimmy, it feels like the drafts have almost swapped to a point. It feels like now Mindfreak have really drafted for that wombo sort of, we find a target, we blow them up. That's what their draft is screaming to me.
It does scream that quite a fair bit. They definitely have a lot of immortal racing pressure, but when it comes to the side of who has to force fights, it's definitely going to be Aztech. They need to get amongst it. They need to get in the faces of Mindfreak, and so we know you're going to be looking to just try and rely on the crutch of Hanzo. We can't fall back on that, because if they lose the early game, I find it very difficult for Aztech to come back.
Aztech, as you said, cannot allow to give any ground to Mindfreak. We saw what happened last game. They had the snowball going in their favor, but one or two slight missteps or poor rotations, and that's all Mindfreak really needed to really get the ball rolling in their favor.
Here we go, guys. Jumping into game number 2, brought to you by McDonald's Australia, is Mindfreak, currently leading the series 1-0. They're on the left, rocking those blue shorts to coincide with their blue and back. Blue and back?
Blue and back?
Deary me. Blue and black shirts. Fat94 playing Muradin. Madhax, the new support on Deckard Kane. Vanilla playing Hanzo. Ryu on Frall. And John, this famous Li Ming.
And in the red shirts, not shorts, we have Doubt playing Lunara, Azog playing Garrosh, Ultivian on Tigers, Superfish on Blaze, and Shrek playing Malfurion.
So Superfish have a much easier time this time around in that top lane. Won't have to worry about the threat of a global being used against him, so he can look to try and win that solo lane and win it hard. If they can find some advantage there, it's going to find a lot more value compared to Dragon Shy. But the early game may be maybe a little bit scary once again for the side of Mindfreak. Their wave clear isn't the best, and they've always got the constant threat that Azog and Shrek will be looking to find picks.
Both teams really have that point-and-click style of execution, don't they? It comes down to who can really get the pick rolling. So, as you said, if it's going to be Azog, or whether we see Fat94 landing that first stun, the Stormbolt, to really get things started, either team, it'll be kind of tippy-toeing at this point.
Azog there, you can see he's going to be utilising that Fog of War as much as he can to try and, catch his opponents off guard. But with that Recon arrow consistently coming out, you can see its revealing presence. He's going to really, I suppose, punish Azog and his, lack of engaged potential. He's fantastic at getting up in your face, but he is no Muradin. He is no Anubrak or Diablo. We can just really bring the fight to you. He needs you to come to him. And you can see the respect that Mindfreak are giving. Look, we don't need to force anything. We just need to clear lanes and just get to the Immortal Race. That's where our true power completely lies.
Also with Garrosh, he's very telegraphed. When he's hanging around close to you, he's looking to get that ground break. He's looking to do the combo. So that's why we've seen him fall off a little bit. There were a couple of changes to, I guess, nerf him in some aspects. And after that, he did fall off just a little bit. We saw him still stay up there, but then Blaze and really things like Muradin started to come in, and ETC really just taking the crown in terms of what we like to play in AZ. So you can't forget about Johanna, one of my favorites.
Yeah, Johanna's an interesting one, especially with the new changes. Many people are saying that, she's not as strong as she was. The armor's been removed. She sucks. Definitely feel like she's still got a place in the meta.
I never.
You never believe Reddit. You never believe Twitch chat. We're all grandmasters in Twitch chat, apparently, aren't we? But,
That's too relatable right there.
It's fine.
I know exactly what I'm doing. Yep,
Half of Twitch chat right now probably in our Hero League games, and all just like...
You guys don't know what you're talking about. Too real. But bringing it back a little bit, it was really interesting with Johanna. People were saying she's going to be garbage, as you said. Really, by taking away her armor, what are you guys doing? And I was like, all right, I'm going to give her a play. And it looks like a lot of other players had the same idea, and she seems like she's still in a pretty decent spot. She doesn't feel as though she's been weakened too much. She feels about the same in terms of the strength. And that's why we do see her continuously being picked up.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually, because I spoke to Breeze and Fnatic, and he was like, I actually think Muradin is the best tank in the game. And I was like, well, everybody else that we've spoken to says that it is Garrosh without a doubt. And he's like, I can't understand why. And I'm a bit like, hang on a minute, what's this guy really trying to allude to? He goes, look, engage is so good right now. The ability to just jump in So we saw a few games on Diablo, a few games on an Uberak. Just the ability to force a fight rather than sort of wait around. Garrosh has been out long enough now that people know how telegraphed the skill set is.
Absolutely right, and that's also why we don't really see Diablo being played as much. After his changes, he's still good, but it has fallen off a little bit, and it is down to that telegraph sort of aspect. That 94, he is getting chased, and the stun comes out from the Immortal to really just buy him a little bit of breathing room now.
Has gone for third wind at level 1, so going to find himself a lot more regeneration on his own accord, but look at the reset, you hear the sound, and Leeming just absolutely pops off there to find that very first blood. 3.25 minutes into this game, and well, with a pick like that, it means that the Immortal race can be won that much more convincingly by them. But speaking of, the race is very, very close, Vandy.
The race is strong by both teams, but really, Aztech had to be immediately put onto the defensive because of losing that Blaze. So it's just going to be a matter of just trying to get what shield they can down from this Immortal. Fat 94 trying to zone, might lose his life for it actually, but they don't manage to collapse on him.
Once again, Fat 94 playing with 5. Seen like I think notorious in ANZ for doing this on Muradin when it comes to Battlefield of Eternity. He just runs up to your entire team, kind of like that mischievous devil that you had in your class back when you're like 10 years old at primary school. Then just runs away and goes, you can't kill me. So twice he's relied on the ability of Third Wind as passive just to kick in. And it's doing a lot of work, baiting so many resources, and ultimately, if it keeps up, Mindfreak will just keep winning these Immortals.
And that's really not a position that you want to find yourself in, especially because of that Hanzo. You give them an inch and they're going to take them all. Once the death timers really start to spawn, it just takes that one death and Hanzo's going to be like, well, thank you, we're going to get a full shield Immortal out of this one. You'll blink and we'll take that Immortal.
First Immortal quite weak to start things off with. The real advantage is just coming from the XP that you can pick up. Less XP from those towers, more from the forts where the Immortal will fall on down. And that's where Mindfreak will be looking to put their next objective power into. But the question is, for Aztech, how do they force Mindfreak to come at them? By starting a camp, and that's exactly what they're going to do right now.
Starting a camp and throwing a Fat 94 into your team, I think that's a good way to get things started.
Probably not the best way, as they now realize, hang on a minute, we took so much damage, abort mission.
Yep, just let's run away. We don't want to lose another person here and just really steamroll what Mindfreak are trying to do. We can defend the camp, so we will opt to do that instead. And a lot of passiveness just coming out from Aztech this time around. It just shows how much pressure Mindfreak are exuding this time around.
I mentioned before, you know, if Aztech were to lose the very first Immortal, I find it very hard for them to come back into things. And the major reason behind that is, you know, the composition that Mindfreak have, it just gets stronger and stronger and stronger, and their engage becomes that much harder to try and disengage from. Yes, you'll have that bunker. If you can all get into that bunker at the same time, perfect. But if that doesn't come across in a synchronized swimming kind of fashion, then I can see Mindfreak really starting to steamroll.
So that's what was inside the bunker, a swimming pool.
Absolutely,
it makes so much sense
it's massive.
now.
That's why they had to nerf the cooldown. There's just too much water in there.
It's funny because Blaze is the fire in the water. You know who's in a little bit of trouble though? Azog. He's taking a lot of that poke damage, but it is good to be the Garrosh that does so. He's the one that should be taking all of these shots. As we know with Garrosh, the more health that he loses, the higher his armor will become, so he can look deceptively squishy when he becomes low. Like players that get baited into being like, oh great, I can get that reset, I can get that kill, but he's got so much armor, just chunking those last few shreds can be an absolute nightmare.
Absolute nightmare indeed, and it is a bit of a dilemma that Aztech have to face. They were late to go for that Shaman camp. Mindfreak already picking their one up. As a result, they're going to bring the pressure straight to this Immortal, spawning on the doorstep of Aztech. They are conflicted as to, do we defend this or do we finish this camp? Right now, doubt is on it, but they're going to lose this first half.
Just looking at Deckard as well, Mad Hacks, he's opted for Kanai's Cube, meaning that all the Roderick cubes he lands, it's going to reduce the hero damage dealt by 30%. So that's absolutely huge, and we'll be watching to see the way he's targeting them. He's always making sure that he's hitting at least one of the damage dealers where possible.
Yeah, they're looking to try and not only land that for the damage reduction, but to make it easy with that slow to land that Scholar sitting to lock those members in place. You saw the combo right there.
Look at it right there.
3 members in place. Can Mindfreak find any kills? They are so deceptively close to level 10. You could smell it like a French bakery just humming down the street. But they are about to collapse on through. This 1 minion wave will do it. A full shield Immortal. All, if you think back how this all happened, all coming down to the fact that they were quick on their rotation to pick up that Shaman camp.
And it's all about the timings like that. Mindfreak, they know exactly when they need to take that. Look at that huge dragon arrow.
The arrow is massive, and stay a while and listen. You said it at the start, and they'll say it again. 2 people locked in place. Doubt extremely lucky to get away with his life at 180, but I don't think Garish will be here. Indomitable had to be popped early on, and without that, the CC piles on. 1 kill, easy as could be. 8 minutes into this one, and only 2 kills on the scoreboards. But the pressure is definitely being felt by Aztech in other ways, and that's predominantly through structures.
I mean, you drew attention to the fact that the Immortal had that full shield, and that's exactly what I said, Skimmy. You're late, you give that Hanzo an inch, he's going to take a mile, and that's due to the serrated arrows and how he just works. He's just too good on a map like this where he races everything in terms of empowering that Immortal. That's exactly what they've done, and Mindfreak, they managed to get a huge experience advantage out of that.
Based on the discipline that we've seen from Mindfreak so far, you'd imagine they won't let this 2-level lead slip out from their grasp that easily, to say the least. The rotations, once again, are going to be there. They're going to finish what they started in the top lane. It's going to be another full, adding even more XP, making them reach level 13 for the all-important next talent tier that much quicker. I mean, if you look at the map, what is it really for Aztech? A consolation prize in picking up these Khazras and trying to respond in some kind of fashion for this bottom lane. It's not desirable, but you know, once again, they are forced to back and deal with a second onslaught towards the keep.
At least, as you said, they get that consolation prize, but Mindfreak, they're showing no signs of really stopping the push that they've got there, really escorting the Khazra camp of their own in that top lane. And as I said, they have a lot of that poke as well in the form of John, in the form of Vanilla. And also Mad Hacks, look at every time he throws out one of those scrolls of ceiling, just how much area it just zones off. And that's really what Decade can bring to the sort of table. Just that zoning potential, that pressure just constantly coming out from him, just forcing him to reposition.
Yeah, definitely a really, really strong hero in that regard. And, you know, as long as he's nearby those members, those cooldowns are reduced very quickly. So he's susceptible to dive, but at level 16, he can spec into the ability to stun with his staff. But hang on a minute, there's the all-in engage to take out Fat 94. He gets away! He gets away on 100 health. I don't believe it. The heal clips into place. The Dragon's Arrow onto 4 members, buys them some disengaged potential to bunker, utilizing the armor. Is this Aztec's best chance to force the fight? They don't even have level 13, but they go so damn close. And for the 3rd time in a row, Ben on Muradin jukes death and really is becoming a bit of a thorn in the side of Aztech.
Absolutely is. If they got that pick, finally they could get some of the momentum that they were desperately desired. And really, so many cooldowns were traded right there. You can already see both teams, emptied the banks in terms of those heroics.
Yeah.
And even though we start to see Aztec start the Immortal a little bit earlier, that shred coming out on the side of Hanzo, they're pretty much neck and neck for the Immortal race.
Neck and neck, and a lot of that is down to the ability of Lunar at level 4 with Nature's Culling to do extra damage in these Immortal races. So both these teams in a situation now where they're posturing for the defense. But the poke advantage is in favor of Mindfreak between Leeming and Hanzo to try and isolate somebody down, load him down, and allow Ben on Fat 94. Muradin, one of 3 different names to jump in. He's a cat with 9 lives. He just does not die.
Yep, so he's used up 3 of them and he's still got, what, 6 out there. I was like, come on, Stevie, help me out with the math. Quick math.
Pass the math, mate.
Yeah. So Fat, might as well call him Cat 94.
Cat 94, that's a rename that we'll see, and I'll be begging for it on Twitter. Want some retweets? Hashtag those retweets. Get on social media and make things happen as the oil spill goes across. That is the best poke that you're going to see come out here from Aztec, apart from burning a Thornwood Vine. On a 15-second cooldown, it's not the worst. Does store multiple charges. But this is a very slow play, and if Aztec let it happen this way, then they are just going to slowly start to lose. They get a little bit desperate. They aren't level 13, but they've given up. This time they go for the combo again onto Fat 94. Is he going to live? He does it again! He always lives. This guy, everything chucked at him. The bunker, the armor, the Odin. They're pumping as hard as they can, but not having that talent tier is really hurting them as Lunar's first one will fall on down, and it's the second kill, making it double. Can we find more? Stay a while and listen. Every person locked in place, and we might be about to see a full team wipe.
About to try and see if Shrek has managed to get away, but that's still 4 for their troubles, and that's a good, honest day's work for Mindfreak right there. And Skimmy, as you said, the desperation was there from Aztec. They didn't even have that 13. All the eggs were trying to just get rid of Fat 94. And you could already see Mad Hacks was on standby, just dropping the potion of shieldings onto him, and also with the avatar, Dwarventar, see you later. Thanks for burning everything onto me. And you already touched to why Muradin can be such an impressive tank, and it's reasons like that. That man, he's an absolute punching bag. You can chuck everything at him and he'll still live through it.
Karazim, I really think that Aztech will be licking their wounds and thinking, I hope we actually had that Karazim right now, because 7-sided strike would have been that final nail in the coffin to take down the elusive brawler that is known as Muradin here. And this is the combination once again. Is he going to die? Are they going to finally find him? Yes, they do. The curse is broken, but the damage is coming through. Everybody hops into the bunker. Everybody getting 25 armor. As an Arcane Orb connects, doing still immense amounts of damage. And they're going to leave this Immortal with Fat 94 down. They can no longer look to try and take this. They were very close to level 16, and that is true signs of life for Aztech. Frustration eliminated.
They do get the kill, and I think that was like a moral victory right there. We tried so many times. We tried 4 times, and finally 5th time was a charm for them. And in terms of Aztec as well, Azog just chucking down just into the fray.
If anybody had any concerns as to how strong Mad Hacks will be on this roster, he is so far showing a masterclass on this Decade Kane, landing some very impressive scrolls to ceiling, as well as the stay a while and listen, especially with that last play to make sure that they commanded that Immortal race. And very scary when a team is this fluid to just do a roll swap as quick as that and say, look, we're still as strong as ever. You might think we're weakened, you might think we're down and out, and a few weeks of unsteadiness and uncomfortability. But now this is the old Mindfreak that you know and love. A 2-man stun from far away. John jumps in. Fat 94 across from the hurdles. Instantly they toss him away, but Azog is locked in place. Armor or not, you're going to fall on down. Can he survive? Bunker in, bunker out, run away. What can you do? But Fat 94's got you. Everybody locked in place. And can they connect the kill? They finally find it in Garrosh Vanilla, securing a deal.
You can see already Azog, he was trying to just run for the longest time and disengage as much as he could, but the slows coming out, as well as the stuns from Mindfreak, were just keeping him into the swing of things, really. The bunker tried to be there to alleviate some of that pressure, as was the Tranquility, but it's just never going to be enough for Azog. He got singled out, and they managed to just keep the crowd control running onto him.
Every single time Aztec have been running on fumes here, forcing fights when they are down talent tiers, down levels as well. They've been up against a Mindfreak with level 16 advantage for such a long time now. And yes, they've had some close encounters, some close engages, but it really is starting to build up the momentum. The scoreboard showing 7-1, with that one pick being on Muradin. It's not enough for them to turn things around. They're going to need repeated teamfight wins after aces to really turn things around here.
You can also really just see the story that the structures tell as well. Mindfreak, that keep is very, very low in that top lane. If they do win another team fight, you know that they'll just go straight for it and even try to push for that win. Aztec, they've struggled to even take the outer forts.
Once again, Mindfreak playing the poking game, and they will win in that regard, and they know it. Level 16, really the big discussing factor. Watch Fat 94 on the right-hand side of your screen. He's looking to flank. He's looking to draw members of Aztec away. Can Aztec look to try and capitalize on this as the members of the Mindfreak Assassin Squad start to pile on up? And that's a double kill just like that. He found his moment, and he bit the bullet just in about it. Stay a while and listen. Do people fall asleep inside a bunker? I don't know, but we're going to find out. As he jumps in, he jumps out, he is dead. And he meets his maker once again. It's a quad kill, as Mindfreak surely have secured victory in game number 2 with this next Immortal.
I tell you what, I want to be in that bunker. It's got a pool, it's got a bed. I mean, that sounds great, but it's not going to stop you from the Mindfreak wrecking ball coming. As you said, Skimmer, we blinked and bam, 2 kills. That's exactly what happened. As I say, they're constantly being cornered in situations like this, and this is what happens when you give up that race and you don't have a strong enough team fight. It's just in terms of like, we have to play defensively, but we can't because we lose on the poke. We can't really force a team fight because we're constantly being behind a talent here and that level disadvantage.
Not to mention the displacement factor, the ability to bait members out of their position. Muradin was on the right-hand side. Members of the Aztec are a little bit shaky, thinking, where do we go? Where do we go? Instantly, bang, snap. John finds it. He jumps in. They just get a double kill like that. The coordination and synergy between these two is unparalleled. They've been on a roster for such a long time as the Warlord's challenge connects as Fat94 jumps on out. And that's a big cooldown down without any real benefit. Level 16 is so close to hitting. They need it for any chance of surviving in this game because that Immortal is onto the core. The shield is falling on down. The bunker's going to do whatever it can to try and survive. Supperfish, Superfish, any fish. He's slapping himself around. He is down and out as the Ice Block buys time for inevitable doom. Game number 2 goes to Mindfreak.
Phew, high octane finish right there to pick up a couple more kills to pick up and really pad the KDA going forward for Mindfreak. And that was just a very dominating game from start to finish. Mindfreak, they're woken up and they're saying, all right, let's do this now. Thank you for giving us the Hanzo. We're now going to just make sure that we pick really a nice roster to really make him shine, but also keep him safe. And it just works so well for them. Fat94, I feel like, was the star for just really baiting out so many of those heroics, as well as just soaking up so much of that damage. I mean, I'm looking at the numbers as well, 63k in terms of the damage that he soaked. So pretty nuts.
It's ridiculous. Ridiculous is an understatement. You know, if you give over Hanzo, you have to win team fights. If you don't win team fights or those immortal races, tell you what, a little secret, you're probably not going to win the game. That's what we saw there, 13-1 in terms of kills. A very dominant performance coming out here from Mindfreak in their second event, or second showing in week number 2. But that's it for first series of the night. We're going to have another best of 3 series after this one. It's last season's second place player in Crimson going up against the newly promoted Pleb to Pro. We'll see you very shortly.